I know I've been doing like some super healthy dishes the past few weeks and sticking kind of like the Japanese stuff, and we will get back to more Japanese food because that's like my being is Japanese. One of the dishes that we used to do all the time that we used to get like rave reviews is this orange pecan French toast. I wanted to kind of deviate a little bit and do something a little bit more decadent. When I was in college, I moved from Japan straight to the American South. So I moved to an all-women's college in North Carolina. Come up with all of your Catholic high school fantasies, but like apply that to like a non-Catholic college, and that was us. What I used to do on the weekends is work at the local bed and breakfast that was part of the historic district in downtown. And part of my job, in addition to like making sure that all the rooms were clean and they were all prepared, like, you know, for our next round of guests, was to prepare the breakfast part of the bed and breakfast. And so one of the dishes that we used to do all the time that we used to get like rave reviews is this orange pecan French toast. And it's super, super easy to make. So let's get started. First of all, we're gonna have, I'm just doing like a portion for one, so that's why I only have 3 slices, but make sure that they're stale. If you buy fresh bread and it's still soft, then slice it up. I have them sliced into kind of like 1-inch slices. You can use French bread or Italian bread here. I like using like a heavier, kind of sturdier bread rather than like a regular sandwich bread, because I think you'll see when I make like the custard part, but you want something that's going to absorb it all without falling apart, and regular like sandwich bread would do that. So thicker, kind of more like a bakery loaf. If you make your own bread, this is a perfect time to use like your leftover bread for that. But you hear that? You have to leave it overnight. I tend to like kind of slice it, leave it overnight, leave it in the oven so that like things don't get on it or anything. And just let it dry out. And if you already have dry stale bread, use that. You don't have to like do what I just did. So we have those 3 slices, 2 eggs. And obviously you can like double this recipe if you're making this for 2 people. As always, I'm using this amazing, super orangey yolk. And this is just a personal pet peeve of mine, are these like little stringy bits. I don't like seeing them. I don't mind them in things like scrambled eggs, but I kind of don't like them in my French toast. So I take those out. You can use a whisk. I use a chopstick for everything. So just go ahead and mix that up. My oven has preheated, which is nice. That means it's gonna be ready to go soon. Okay, so I have the 2 eggs beaten in there. We are going to do orange juice. We're doing a 1/4 cup of orange juice. You can use your favorite orange juice. If you like pulp, use the pulpy stuff. If you don't like pulp, use the no pulp stuff. And then whole milk is 1/8 of a cup. And you would think that they would curdle, but for some reason the eggs prevent it from curdling. So and if you want to get really fancy, you can like, you know, do like like orange peel can go in here. We kind of tend to keep it, we used to keep it very kind of simple, but fancy either way. A teaspoon of vanilla. That was the last of my vanilla, so it's perfect. Get to use that up. And 3 tablespoons of sugar. Yeah, I'm actually using real sugar. This is one of those recipes where, like, if you're on a diet, like this just kind of goes out the window. But if you know, want to do this for like a Mother's Day brunch or Valentine's Day or whatever, it totally works for that. And then you just mix all of that up. And honestly, that's, oh, there's one more ingredient, but let me get this mixed up. Get all that sugar incorporated. And then the last thing we add is nutmeg. Now nutmeg, the recipe calls for like a 1/4 teaspoon, but I love nutmeg. It's one of my favorite kind of like sweet spices. I also use them for like for savory dishes like meatballs and things. So I just go a little bit crazy there with the nutmeg. Mix this all together. Make sure you don't have any like lumpy lumps of nutmeg. Nobody likes that, not even me. And then you're just gonna pour this all over this day-old or stale bread. And you'll notice that there's a lot more liquid in here than there is bread. And it looks like there's, you know, just swimming in a pool. But this is the reason why you want to use stale bread, because if you use soft, fresh bread, it's got so much moisture in it that it's not going to absorb any of this amazing like lusciousy custard. And this is basically a custard because it's milk and eggs. So you want to turn these over just a couple of times, make sure that they start absorbing. Now, like the kind of French toast that most people kind of make at home, because they use sandwich bread, there's a tendency to just dip the bread into the custard mixture and then just put it on a frying pan. And that's okay, but we're going decadent here. So we want to give this some time instead of just putting it right on the frying pan. We're actually going to be baking these. So once this is done, what you're going to do is actually put a lid on it or wrap it with saran wrap or foil and then put it in the fridge, and you can leave it overnight. Anywhere from 2 to 24 hours is kind of the rule, but we always just kind of made it the night before, and then that way it was so easy to like make the rest of the breakfast in the morning. So I'm doing this whole like cooking show magic. So let me take this kind of soupy bread mess and I'll show you what it looks like. Ta-da! It's like the magic of cooking shows. You see how it's completely absorbed all of the yummy custard. It's soft but firm because it's had a chance to kind of sit there and soak all of this up. Let me put this over here for a minute. And let me get the baking pan out of the oven, which has been preheating with a quarter tablespoon of butter. Okay, so now it's got butter on it. Twirl it around so it kind of coats everything. I like it a little brown like that, but that's just my personal preference. I like a little brown butter flavor. Obviously, if you're, when we were working at the bed and breakfast, we would use like a big baking sheet. But since I'm only making this for myself, ooh, I should probably flip these over. So we get the custard part on top. And then, now that it's in the baking pan, we are going to go ahead and put this in the oven for 20 minutes. And then we're going to take it out, add some pecans, throw it back in there for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to make this amazing sauce for it that's very, very different from your traditional kind of mapley sauce, which was like, not only are these delicious, but the sauce that goes on them is like doubly so. So let me put these in the oven for 20 minutes and I will be right back. Look at how they got puffy. Kind of completely baked up. And it smells so good. I haven't made this in ages. Like when I say ages, I mean like literally years. I haven't made this in probably 6 or 7 years, and that smell just reminds me of how good it is. Okay, so that was 20 minutes in the oven at 350. And then what you're gonna do is just top with some pecans, because you know it's southern. You can add your favorite nut to this. If it's walnuts, almonds, or whatever you think would be good with like this kind of orange custard flavor, right? So pretty much any nut would go with this. So do that, and then we're gonna pop this back in the oven for 10 minutes, just so that the pecans get a little toasty and some of the oil comes out, and the toast on top, the French toast, gets a little bit more golden. So 10 more minutes in the oven, and I'll be right back, and we're gonna make this amazing orange sauce. I'll be right back. Let me put all this away. I'm gonna need that trivet later because that's gonna still be hot. So right here I have half a cup of butter, sounding more and more southern with every ingredient. Half a cup of butter is usually 1 stick of butter. I tend to use just regular salted butter, but if you're kind of a purist, then you can use the unsalted stuff. To that we add no more pecans, but we add a half cup of sugar. Now remember, this is the sauce that kind of replaces, you know, like what you would do with like maple syrup. So this is gonna be a pretty sweet sauce. So half a cup of butter melted, half a cup of sugar. And then the secret ingredient is orange juice concentrate. It's, we used to keep these in the freezer, like we would buy them in bulk because we went through them so much. So what you wanna do is get the fairly melty. I like the ones now back in the 90s when I was in college. I don't remember them having these like resealable lids, but they now have these like amazing resealable lids. So I can use half now and use half later. I think back in college we would like just put saran wrap over it because you only need half a can for a serving. That's supposed to be a serving for 8 slices, and we're only making 3 right now. So I'm just gonna have a little bit of extra sauce in here. But let me grab a spoon. Because some of this is still a little frozen in here. And you're going to add half the orange juice concentrate. You don't want to use regular orange juice. I think it's just a little too watery, and so it doesn't taste quite as syrupy if you just use orange juice, because you'll have to cook that down. So then, trusty hand mixer. And then you're gonna beat all of this together. Now we always use it partially frozen first so that it would melt, so it would mix up really well with the butter so it wouldn't separate. Probably gonna make a mess, but. And then, put the lid back on this. Last thing we need is a spill. Speaking of spills, I'm gonna write that down. And then, right before serving, we would just pop this right back in the microwave just to kind of melt this down. So let me just do that right now. Okay, and now we're back. This has been put in the microwave for 30 seconds 3 times. So instead of doing like a minute 30 where it'll just start boiling, you want to do 3 times 30 seconds. Then you're gonna whip this back up. It smells so good. And you can tell that now everything's melted, the butter's melted back again. It's not lumpy anymore. And then we would just put this in like a serving boat, like a gravy boat, like for syrup. And then we would have this in the middle of the table with the French toast all around it. We've got 4 more minutes left on the French toast. So let me clean all this up and get some dishes out, and I'll show you what it looks like when we used to like put it out for our bed and breakfast guests. So I just got these out of the oven, and yeah, like it already smelled amazing to begin with, but then once you add the pecans on top, it gets this like additional little nutty aroma. But in my case, the nutmeg is what I smell the most here. So let's get one out. Yeah, the point about French toast is that it's supposed to be a bread that's kind of like filled with custard. So, oops, runaway pecan right there. Ooh, warm nuts. And that does, it smells so good. And I have another one of these little warm nuts on top. We would also have like, you know, a little buffet kind of setup. So we would have the French toast in the middle of the table where everybody would be sitting. And then we'd have like a platter of bacon and a platter of sausage and some fresh fruit. And then people could kind of take what they wanted. But this is what it looks like. Got the yummy orange sauce. It's drizzled right on top. And because this is orange juice and butter, you don't need to add like a pat of butter like you would with like maple syrup. But we would keep like some maple syrup and butter around in case some people just didn't like this overwhelming orange flavor, although I don't know how you would. Oh, it's nice. That stale bread that was like so hard and crunchy earlier is now soft and custardy. Little crunchy edges. This is straight out of the oven, so probably a little warm, but it's like the perfect breakfast, brunch, romantic thing that you can make for your partner or your date or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or your boyfriend or just something that you want to do because you have a bunch of people over and you want to feed them something yummy. So yeah, this was one of the most favorite dishes at the bed and breakfast. I actually look forward to doing it every Saturday morning. Sunday in the South is chicken, it's fried chicken. So that's what we would do on Sundays. But, and we would do like a fried chicken or waffle kind of thing. But for Saturday breakfast, perfect. It's so citrusy and light. It's pretty sweet, but you know, for a little breakfast dish, especially if you have this with like some sausage or bacon and some fruit, it's like a perfect little bright, acidic French toast. The bed and breakfast that I used to work at is no longer a bed and breakfast, it's now an Airbnb, because the historic district in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, got taken over by all these Airbnb people. And so what happened is that the bed and breakfast I used to work at kind of went under because all the local Airbnbs kind of outbid them or outpriced them. Like they were cheaper to stay at these other places in the historic district. So the owners who I used to work for, this is in the 90s, so it's like 30 years ago, they ended up selling the house to a different couple, and they actually now run it as an Airbnb, but they don't have any of this extra bed and breakfasty perks. And I don't even know what the rooms look like at the house anymore. Although because it is part of the historic district, in the US, if your house is registered in a historic district or it's part of the registry of historic places, you have to meet certain criteria in terms of like interior design and like paint colors and how you decorate both the inside, the outside, and landscape and all that to kind of maintain that historic look. So I'm sure that it looks the same, but I don't know. I have a feeling that the ambiance of going there and going to like a nice southern bed and breakfast is probably gone. But the nice thing is I have the recipe. So I can kind of make my own version of a little bed and breakfast experience at my own house. So I'm gonna finish this one piece, put the other two pieces away for a later day, for like a midnight snack or something. And I hope you try this recipe. It's really good and tasty, and it'll be one of those things that you make and like weeks later or months later, you'll be like, you know what, that was really good, I should make it again. And really, use like a nice crusty bread. Don't go with like a sandwich bread because then it'll get really mushy. You want something that has like a good crust, kind of hold that orangey custard in. And I'm going to keep eating this. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday and the rest of your week. I'll see you again soon.